ماذا يفيدك أن تسمى حافظا وكتاب ربك في الفؤاد تمزقا يا أمتي القرآن حبل نجاتنا.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. We are now starting Surah Nazee'aat, which is the second surah in the 30th juz. And this surah begins with some descriptions of certain angels. And after this, it moves into a vivid description of Akhirah. And then it gives an example through the story of Musa alayhi salam and Fir'aun. And it comes back to what it takes to build one's akhirah and what it takes to ruin one's akhirah, drawing lessons from the story of Musa alayhi salam and Fir'aun. So the surah commences, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَالنَّازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes an oath. He swears by those angels that are an-Nazee'aat. Naza'a, yanzi'u, it means to pull something, to yank, to tear something. And gharq, ghariqa yaghraqu, it means to drown. And gharaqa means to exert oneself. So to be immersed in something completely or to exert oneself entirely. So one nazi'ati gharqa, it means those angels that are yanking the souls of the disbelievers with extreme force, using all their strength and power. And as Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu describes, that the soul of a disbeliever is extracted with extreme pain, and every portion of their body is made to suffer. And he compares it to a metal hook with many prongs. So if you have a multi-pronged hook made of metal and you shove it into wet cotton, wet carded cotton, and then you pull it out, what's going to happen? All the fibers of the cotton are going to stick to it, and it's going to be a very difficult pull. And as he's yanking it, the cotton is not going to want to separate. It's not going to come out the way that a person would like it to come out. He's going to have to tear it out. And along with it, shreds of this cotton are also going to come along with it. So that is the example of someone who leaves this world without any faith. This is how their soul is extracted with extreme force. وَالنَّازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا وَالنَّاشِطَاتِ نَشْطًا. But on the other side, there are some angels that are extracting souls of the believers with extreme ease. Nashita and nashata, it means to be very swift, to be active actually. Nashat is someone who is active, very quick, alert. So an-nashitati nashtan are those who extract the soul of the believer very, very quickly and easily, so he hardly feels it. And the example that is given in this verse, the word nashata, it's used to untie a slip knot. If you know what a slip knot is, it's a knot that's tied in such a way that when you pull it, right away it becomes undone. So it will hold the thing in place, but if you pull it from one side, from a certain side, right away it becomes undone. So those of you who go camping and are involved in such activities, you will know about these knots. They're very easy to tie and they're very easy to undo. But while it's there, it will hold it in place. So there is a saying in Arabic, كَأَنَّمَا نُشِطَ مِنْ عِقَالٍ. So نُشِطَ مِنْ عِقَالٍ means that there was a habit of tying the camel when leaving it somewhere. And one of the ways of tying it was that its foreleg would be put into a slip knot. And when the rider would come, he'd just pull on it and it becomes undone. So this is nushita min iqal. So when something is released very, very quickly and easily so that you hardly feel it and there's no delay, this is called nushita min iqal. So nashitat nashta are those who release the souls of the believers with very, very little discomfort, with very little delay. It happens quickly, it happens painlessly, it happens with ease. And while the physical pain being endured by someone who had a great deal of misdeeds or left this world in that state, while there is a great deal of physical pain, there is also a great deal of emotional and psychological pain. Because the angel of death and those angels that accompany him come in the most heinous and frightening and disgusting shape. He comes in such a frightening shape that just looking at him is enough of a torment, enough of a punishment. And then when he comes, he doesn't come with words of greeting and praise. He comes to him with insults, and he curses him, and he puts him down, and he tells him what a wretched person he was. And he tells him how disgusted he is with the duty of having to extract his soul. And he comes to him with this dark and black and ugly disfigured shape. And فَكَيْفَ إِذَا تَوَفَّتْهُمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ يَضْرِبُونَ وُجُوهَهُمْ وَأَدْبَارَهُمْ. And these angels, when they come, instead of welcoming him, one angel comes and hits him from the face, and the other angel comes and hits him from behind. And this is how they extract his ruh, hitting him from the front and the back and the front and the back. And in this state of humiliation and mental and emotional torment and extreme excruciating pain, the soul is extracted from that type of people. And from the others, those who had the right deeds and the right beliefs, then their soul is extracted easily. The angels come in the most pleasant and beautiful shapes. And they come to them, فَرَوْحٌ وَرَيْحَانٌ. They come to them with beautiful fragrances of Jannah. And with a great deal of courtesy and respect and honor, this person's soul is extracted. And the angels express their pleasure at having the honor to perform this duty. So وَالنَّازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا, those that tear it out. وَالنَّاشِطَاتِ نَشْطًا, those that pull it out very swiftly. And then وَالسَّابِحَاتِ سَبْحًا, those angels that go floating through the heavens. Sabha yasbahu literally means to swim or to float. So this is referring to the angels moving very, very swiftly through the heavens, through the skies, from one sky to another sky, from the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala down to the earth, and vice versa. And these angels are floating because there is no resistance against them. They're moving very, very quickly. And that movement applies to all of their functions, whether it's the angels that are taking the souls to their respective places prior to the Day of Judgment, whether it's the angels that are bringing commands from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, angels that are bringing rahmah and barakah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, angels that are bringing glad tidings, whatever it is, they're doing it effortlessly. As-sabihati sabha. It's not difficult for the angels to do this. In fact, فَالسَّابِقَاتِ سَبْقًا, these angels rush and race to fulfill the command of Allah. Sabaqa, it means to proceed or to precede. It means to rush forward and do it as quickly as possible. فَالسَّابِقَاتِ سَبْقًا. And فَالْمُدَبِّرَاتِ أَمْرًا, Tadbir means to plan, to devise, to design, to organize, to categorize. So mudabbirat, this is referring to those angels that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in charge of many affairs of this universe. There are angels that are in charge of the affairs of the clouds and the rains, those that are in charge of crops, those that are in charge of the people coming into this world and being born, people that are leaving this world, and the systems of rizq, sustenance, the systems of help and assistance, and there are millions and millions of systems within this world. Systems within the heavens, systems within the earth, systems within the waters, systems within ourselves. And at various places in the Qur'an, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes these responsibilities and duties. And the Prophet ﷺ has also described for us these responsibilities and duties. They are called mudabbirat, the planners, the organizers, not because they're the ones planning it, but for another reason. You see, the word tadbir is derived from the word dubur, which means the end, the back of something. These are angels that continue to fulfill the command until it reaches its completion. فَالْمُدَبِّرَاتِ أَمْرًا. The commands are given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The system is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then He deputes these angels that you will do this, you will do this, you will do this, you will do this. The angels stay attached to that affair, to that matter, and to that duty until it reaches the completion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designated. This is why they are called mudabbirati amra. So these are 5 qualities of angels that the surah opens with. And all of them are in the form of an oath. I swear by these, and I swear by these, and I swear by these, and I swear by these. So what is the point of taking this oath and swearing by these angels? The point is that verily you will be resurrected. Undoubtedly, you will be resurrected. And that is indicated by the next verse, verse number 6, which says, يَوْمَ تَرْجُفُ الرَّاجِفَةِ. On that day when the great convulsion will convulse. Convulsion, the quake. We talked about the quake and the violent shaking of the earth in Surah An-Naba and exactly how it's going to happen. So, Rajafa, it means for something to convulse, to move uncontrollably. For something to shake uncontrollably, like what happens to someone's heart. And when your heart starts beating uncontrollably, or you start trembling uncontrollably, this is called Rajafa. So, يَوْمَ تَرْجُفُ الرَّاجِفَةِ, when the great convulsion will convulse, when the great quake will begin to shake. تَتْبَعُهَا الرَّادِفَةِ, it will be followed by another. It will be followed by another. So the first quake, as we know, this is the blast that will happen the first time the horn is blown. And ar-radifa, radifa, it means to follow, to come after. Radif, in the Arabic language, is the person who sits behind the main rider of the camel, or the horse, or whatever it is. You have a person sitting in the front, this is the raqib, the person who's sitting behind him is the radif. And radifa, it means to follow up. So the first quake will take place, will occur, and tatba'aha radifa, it will be followed by the second one. This is the second blowing of that horn, in which everything will be resurrected. So the first is the blowing of destruction, and the second is the blow of resurrection. When people will arise from their graves, قُلُوبٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ وَاجِفَةٌ, hearts on that day will be in commotion. It's not going to be a calm, quiet rising. It's going to be a state of panic. Wajafa, it means sudden and quick movement. So قُلُوبٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ وَاجِفَةٌ, the hearts will be in a state of panic and commotion. They're not going to be calm. They're going to be extremely confused and extremely bewildered and extremely frightened. أَبْصَارُهَا خَاشِعَةٌ, the eyes of those people will be lowered in humility. People will not be able to raise their eyes and look around and see what's happening. No. Especially those who came with misdeeds, then their faces will show humiliation. Their faces will show humiliation, as is coming up in the next surah, Surah Abasa, towards the end. And their eyes will be lowered because of the impending doom that they are aware that they have to face. أَبْصَارُهَا خَاشِعَةٌ. So these will be some people, and there will be other people whose heads will be uplifted and they will be looking up to the sky and their eyes will be frozen. تَشْخَصُ فِيهِ الْأَبْصَارِ مُهْطِعِينَ مُقْنِعِي رُؤُوسِهِمْ لَا يَرْتَدُّ إِلَيْهِمْ طَرَفُهُمْ وَأَفْئِدَتُهُمْ هَوَاءٌ. There will be some people whose heads will be uplifted and their eyes will be wide open in horror. They will not be able to close their eyes, or they will not be able to blink. So it could be that one verse is referring to one type of people, another verse is referring to another type of sinful people, or that in various phases as they go through the Day of Judgment, they will be undergoing different states. So it could be that when they rise from their graves, their eyes are lowered in humility, but when Jahannam is brought, Jahannam is going to be brought closer, then as is mentioned here in this surah, then they will be forced to raise their heads and look at it. They'll be forced to look at it. يَقُولُونَ أَإِنَّا لَمَرْدُودُونَ فِي الْحَافِرَةِ. Today, they are completely oblivious from all of these realities. Today, what are they saying? Will we be really restored or turned to Al-Hafira? Hafara, it means to dig. And Hufra is a pit. A pit, a hole, a ditch. So, some Mufassirin, some Tabi'is say that Hafira here refers to the pit of Jahannam. Will we really be restored, sent to Jahannam, Al-Hafira, the pit? So this is one interpretation of this verse that is coming from Sahaba and Tabi'is. Others say that Hafira, based on the usage of the Arabs, Al-Hafira means the place where you came from. The place where you came from. So, أَإِنَّا لَمَرْدُودُونَ فِي الْحَافِرَةِ, in that case, that will we be restored to our original shape? We were alive, and then we die. Will we be restored back to living shapes? So there are two tafsirs of this. أَإِذَا كُنَّا عِظَامًا نَخِرًا. Is it so even after we have become a heap of decomposed bones? How is it possible? Idham, plural of adham, which means bones. Nakhira, hollow, decomposed, ready to fall apart. Crumbling bones. After we have become a heap of crumbling bones, we're going to be restored back to our original shape? How is that possible? And Quraysh used to say things like this. أَإِنَّا لَمَبْعُوثُونَ خَلْقًا جَدِيدًا. Will we really be recreated and brought back? This question is repeated in the Qur'an. Allah says in one place, قُلْ كُونُوا حِجَارَةً أَوْ حَدِيدًا. Forget about bones. You could become stones. You could become steel. even then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will resurrect you and put you back exactly as you were. So, قَالُوا تِلْكَ إِذًا كَرَّةٌ خَاسِرَةٌ. Whether it means restored back to our original shape or sent into Jahannam, that second coming of ours, that karra means to come back. That second life of ours will be one of great loss. If their destination is Jahannam, then obviously it is a resurrection of loss. And even if they don't know about their destination being Jahannam, then just the fact that we have to be raised and we are going to be questioned about what we did, that is enough of a loss for us. Khasira. Khasira is someone something but not got back what they were expecting. So somebody, for example, who spent $5 to buy a certain type of food, for example, he paid the $5 and didn't get the food, they would say khasira, he lost these $5. He spent it in something that he got nothing in return. This is khasara. The khasara in business is when you spend a whole bunch of money, then you don't get a return. So there's khasara. So it's going to be karratun khasira. It's going to be a return of loss because we've already spent our lives, we've spent all our resources and everything that we had, but we're not going to get anything back. There's nothing but losses for us. Allah says, فَإِنَّمَا هِيَ زَجْرَةٌ وَاحِدَةٌ. It's just going to be one blast. One call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Zajratun wahida, that one scream, that one blast from the sky, that rise from your graves, that one blast from the horn, everyone's going to rise. They will not have to be called repeatedly. They will not have to be urged and encouraged to come out. That one blast will be enough to send them back into فَإِذَا هُمْ بِالسَّاهِرَةِ. Then they will be back on the surface of the earth. And the earth is going to be different from what we know it. Allah says, يَوْمَ تُبَدَّلُ الْأَرْضُ غَيْرَ الْأَرْضِ وَالسَّمَاوَاتِ وَبَرَزُوا لِلَّهِ الْوَاحِدِ الْقَهَّارِ. The earth will be replaced with another earth. And the skies will be replaced with another set of skies. Because this earth is going to shatter and crumble. The skies are going to shatter and crumble. Allah is going to replace them with another set of sky and earth. And that earth, as is mentioned in the hadith of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, is going to be bayda, afra. It's going to be white. It's going to be like white sand. And there is not going to be any dips, no hills or valleys. Allah describes it in the Qur'an as qa'an safsafa. It's going to be a completely flat plain. La tara fiha iwajan wala amta. You will neither see any dip in it nor any rise. No hills and valleys, no bumps, completely flat. So just that one blast, that one call from the sky will be enough, and the next thing you know, they will be out of their graves and upon the surface of the earth. So these are some of the realities. Yet people continue to refute, people continue to deny, and this is not something new. This is not something new, that people have difficulty in believing in such things. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings us back to a very clear example of something like this. And He also tells us why people think like this. What are some of the things that lead a person to start thinking in this direction? هَلْ أَتَاكَ حَدِيثُ مُوسَى. Has the story of Musa reached you? have you heard the story of Musa? Well, of course, the Prophet ﷺ was told the story of Musa ﷺ over and over and over again in the Qur'an. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is directing him to a particular aspect of that story, of that hadith. What is it? إِذْ نَادَاهُ رَبُّهُ بِالْوَادِ الْمُقَدَّسِ طُوًى. When his Lord called him at the sacred valley of Tuwa. Now the sacred valley of Tuwa is the valley that is right beside Tur Sinin, or the Sinai mountain. It is that valley that is next to the mountain. This is where Musa a.s. was passing by with his wife on his way back to Egypt, and it was dark, it was windy, and they needed to stop for the night. They were having trouble finding directions because of the darkness, and he saw a glowing ember. He saw a burning flame in the distance. He said, let me go there and I can bring back some hot embers so we can light our own fire, and also maybe the person who is there can help us with directions. لَعَلِّي آتِيكُم مِّنْهَا بِقَبَسٍ أَوْ أَجِدُ عَلَى النَّارِ هُدًى. When he reached there, it turned out that it wasn't a flame that was burning, that was a light. And all of a sudden, the entire scenario changed. And that whole incident took place that is described very vividly in the Qur'an, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls out to Musa alayhi salam, إِنَّنِي أَنَا اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنَا فَاعْبُدْنِي وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِذِكْرِي. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts conveying to him all of these commandments and messages and so on and so forth. And he says, look, O Musa, this is not a fire. I am your Lord, I am speaking to you. And then after Musa alayhi salam becomes aware of what's going on, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests him by telling him to throw his staff. The staff turns into the snake and starts chasing him. Musa alayhi salam is told to turn around and grab it. He grabs it, it turns back into the staff. And through these tests and through this training that is happening very, very rapidly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preparing him for one primary task, and that is what's mentioned here. اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى. When his Lord called out to him in that sacred valley. So it tells us that places can also be sacred. Al-Wadi al-Muqaddas. Places can also be sacred. How? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants them to be. When something significant happens in a place, and the place becomes significant. So there is nothing wrong with holding places as important as sacred in our heart, just like we hold Makkah as a sacred place, Medina as a sacred place, Bayt al-Maqdis as a sacred place. So it is possible for us to have this belief of sanctity for certain places. Go to Fir'aun, verily he has gone out of control. إِنَّهُ طَغَى. He has gone out of control. He has crossed all the limits that have been set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَقُلْ. When you go to him, ask him a question. هَلْ لَكَ إِلَىٰ أَن تَزَكَّى. Would you like to move towards, would you like to proceed towards a process through which you may be purified, through which you may be completed, through which you may be rectified? Tazakka. Now, zakka, yuzakki, it means to purify something, and the process of tazkiyah literally is to take a metal and put it in extreme heat in the furnace and melt it to a very high temperature until the other impure ores start separating themselves. That's what tazkiyah literally means. It's a very stringent and a very difficult process. But the result of it is that ore, let's say it's gold, it comes out as completely pure. whatever goes through that process comes out as 100% pure. There is no impurity, there is no mixture, there is no dilution of anything in that. So would you like to go through a process through which you can become clean and pure? Now look at the approach. It's coming across as a suggestion, as a proposal, as something that perhaps he can consider. Would he like to consider this? So this is in line with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam, فَقُولَا لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرُ أَوْ يَخْشَى. When you go to Fir'aun, speak gentle words to him, soft words to him. Perhaps he may understand, perhaps he may have some fear. So this is the approach. Are you interested in a process through which you may be purified? So it's about him. The benefit of deen comes back to the person who practices it. The benefit is not to the deen. The benefit is not to Islam. And of course Allah Azza wa Jal is beyond being benefited. He is not in need of anything or anyone. The benefit comes back to the slave always. Even when we glorify Allah, the benefits come back to us. When we send salawat on the Prophet ﷺ, the benefit comes back to us. The rahmah descends on us. When we make istighfar, the benefit comes back to us. When we do a good deed, مَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا فَلِنَفْسِهِ. Whoever does any good deed, it's for his own benefit. وَمَنْ أَسَاءَ فَعَلَيْهَا. And anyone who does any wrong deed, it's to his own detriment. So, would you like to start a process through which you may become pure? Now, somewhere inside the human being is a desire to become perfect, a desire to become complete. Obviously, it's not possible for a person to be opposing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ruling as a tyrant in the world and then also feel a sense of fulfillment. Maybe there's a fulfillment somewhere, but inside there will be a very huge empty void inside this person that will make them feel very lonely and hollow and miserable. And even with all of their treasures and with all of their things, they will feel extremely, extremely dissatisfied. So Musa alayhi salam says, look, I want to help you out. You have all of the material things, but I want to help you get that which you crave inside. And how am I going to do that? وَأَهْدِيَكَ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ. Would you like that I guide you towards your Lord, the one who sustains you? فَتَخْشَى. You recognize Him and you develop khashya for Him. And khashya is a very difficult word to translate. It's often translated as fear, but khawf is the right word for fear. Khashya is something completely different. Khashya is a sense of awe that comes once you recognize who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. Once you understand who He is and what He does, what His attributes and His powers are, and you start building a connection with Him, the result is you have this overbearing and overwhelming sense of awe in which you are very, very hesitant to do anything that would displease Him. So that awe that overwhelms a person, this is called khashya. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about khashya, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. The only people that have khashya for Allah from all the slaves of Allah are the ulama, are the people of ilm. Why? Because they have recognized Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He actually is. Not through some kind of an emotional situation that brings them close to Allah. They actually recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He is. So, and the end result is khashya. So that is what Musa alayhi salam is promising him. That I could potentially guide you and you could potentially develop this awe. Because he will stay with the Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he will learn from him, he will take advice from him and guidance from him, And of course his knowledge will grow. His knowledge will increase. And through that he will develop khashiyah. فَأَرَاهُ الْآيَةَ الْكُبْرَى. Then Musa a.s. showed him the great sign. The great sign, he showed him the staff. He threw the staff, it became the snake, it became this massive python, this massive serpent. And then he picked it up, it turned back into the staff. And he showed him his hand. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given him another miracle, in which if he took his hand and he put it under his left arm, when he took it out, it would be shining with a blindingly bright light. So Musa a.s. showed him these signs just as a mark of authenticity, that I am not just joking with you, I am not just here to preach to you, I have actually been sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Fir'aun responded in another way, فَكَذَّبَ وَعَصَى. Fir'aun denied. كَذَّبَ, he called him a liar. كَذَّبَ means to lie. كَذَّبَ means to call someone a liar. In other words, to deny. He denied him, he refuted him. كَذَّبَ وَعَصَى, and he disobeyed. He disobeyed Allah. He disobeyed Musa alayhi salam. He disobeyed everything. And he didn't stop there. ثُمَّ أَدْبَرَ يَسْعَى. Then he turned away. He went back to his people, يَسْعَى, and made great efforts. He organized an entire movement. He mobilized the entire country. And that movement of his was to protect his own kingdom, to protect his power and secure his future as the king, and also to save himself from what his soothsayers and fortune tellers had told him, that there's going to be a boy from Bani Israel and your kingdom is going to end at his hands. To save himself from that outcome, he started gathering. فَحَشَرَ فَنَادَى. He started gathering people. Gathering and accumulating and organizing. فَنَادَى. And he had an announcement made. He called out himself and he had this announced everywhere. أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى. I am your highest Lord. I am your highest Lord. In other words, there might be other lords, there might be other gods, but I am the supreme one. So, at one point, he used to just say, مَا عَلِمْتُ لَكُم مِّن إِلَهٍ غَيْرِي. I think I am your only God. I don't think there's any God except for me. I think I'm your only God. I'm your only ilah. Now this increased and increased until he said, I am the most supreme God. أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى. So, then his term came to an end. فَأَخَذَهُ اللَّهُ نَكَالَ الْآخِرَةِ وَالْأُولَى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seized him with the punishment of al-akhirah, of the next life, and al-ula, and of this life by drowning and being humiliated in front of everyone, and humiliated in front of Bani Israel, and of course the punishment of akhirah. The Qur'an describes النار يعرضون عليها غدوا وعشيا ويوم تقوم الساعة أدخلوا آل فرعون أشد العذاب. So punishment in this world means that after he has died, his soul is constantly being tormented and punished through the fire of Jahannam. Allah says النار يعرضون عليها غدوا وعشيا. Morning and evening they're being plunged into the fire. And then on the Day of Judgment, it's another hisab. So the punishment of this world, meaning before Qiyamah, and Al-Akhirah after Qiyamah. And some have said Al-Akhirah wal-Ula means the punishment that will be remembered by those who were present at that time and those who will come later. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَعِبْرَةً لِمَنْ يَخْشَى. Verily in this is a great lesson for those who have khashiyah, for those who have that awe and that recognition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is a prime example of what the human being must not do. This is the extreme that a person can go to and end up becoming an example for all of mankind, a wicked example, an evil example that no one would ever want for themselves or for their progeny or for anyone else. So this is what happens when a person turns away from self-purification, turns away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ignores the concept of akhirah, and ignores the reminders and messages that come to them. Then this is the outcome. And inshallah, we'll continue with this surah inshallah in the coming weeks. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to understand and to practice what these surahs are requiring us to do. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.